What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Tyler Smith, and on today's show, might not be the best start to the bet that Jonathan Kuminga is betting and making on himself for the 2024-25 NBA season, as he was one of the low points of Golden State's blowout win to open the season. Plus, on the back half of today's show, we're going to discuss whether or not I think the Golden State Warriors 12-man rotation that they ran last night is sustainable. Can it survive for long stretches as we start the beginning of a new season? But before we get into all of that, guys, Dubs are 1-0. Let's go. Hit that thumbs up icon if you're pumped up that the Warriors started the season off with a W, 1-0, undefeated, onto the Utah Jazz. Let's start stacking up these wins, and we'll have a really, really good NBA season for the Dubs. So as the Warriors looked dominant in their 139-104 season-opening victory against the Portland Trail Blazers, pretty much everybody showed flashes of success for Golden State. But one man who plays a pretty pivotal role, and we're expecting a lot of this season, didn't have his best outing. Jonathan Kuminga struggled throughout last night, and it was evident in his box score. I mean, doesn't even tell the whole story here, but what you're looking at on your screen right now is not too pretty. In only 19 minutes played, as Golden State ended up running away with this game, and some of the reserves got to see a little bit more action than they normally would. Only 19 minutes on the floor for Jonathan Kuminga, but 10 points, I mean, that's honestly not even half of what we're expecting out of him this season. We're expecting Jonathan Kuminga to be a focal point in Golden State's offense. He can only amass 10 points on 3 of 9 shooting. What did Jonathan Kuminga say he worked on all off season? That three-point shot, 0 for 2 from beyond the arc. And do we say that Jonathan Kuminga had to become a better rebounder over the offseason? Yes, we did. Didn't really attack the glass a whole heck of a lot. Only 4 boards. And then what my biggest gripe was with Jonathan Kuminga is that we all knew heading into the season he was going to have the ball in his hands a whole lot more. Had 4 turnovers to just 1 assist. And a lot of that was just due to carelessness, was just due to recklessness with the basketball in his hand. But I want to talk a little bit about Jonathan Kuminga's jump shooting and whether or not he was putting the ball in the basket or not. And more often than not, he wasn't last night against Portland. A few of Kuminga's misses were ugly. I remember vividly him taking this jab step 3 ball in the corner. That one went in and out, so not bad there. But another one on the left wing, Kuminga puts up a 3, and it goes past the rim, hits the bottom of the backboard on the other side, way too long. And it just doesn't seem like Jonathan Kuminga was entirely comfortable shooting the basketball last night. Didn't look like he was comfortable with the ball in his hands whatsoever. And this is what Steve Kerr talked about in the offseason. He voiced his concerns about Jonathan Kuminga not being able to play without true spacing on the other 4 players in the basketball court, whether you have the 2 guys in the backcourt, Jonathan Kuminga at the 3. Steve Kerr said that you're going to need shooting centers in the lineup, which Golden State really doesn't have a ton of. I know Kevin Looney said that he worked on his threes in the offseason, but let's be honest, he's not getting any threes up for the foreseeable future, at least. And Jonathan Kuminga last night, when he started with players that didn't offer a whole lot of space, I know Draymond hit a 3, but he's not typically somebody that defenses are gravitating towards beyond the arc, especially outside of spots like the corner. Trey Jackson-Davis was not a floor spacing center in there for Golden State last night. And to be honest, Jonathan Kuminga did in fact struggle because of that. Let's take a look at his shot chart versus the Portland Trail Blazers here. I know it's tough to read, but obviously, if you do a little bit of context clues, critical thinking here, the dark blues are makes and the light blues are misses. So you see that miss from the corner and that miss from the left wing that I mentioned from earlier. But even a shot that he tried to get in the mid-range just didn't look good, didn't look comfortable coming out of his hands. And what do we know Jonathan Kuminga to be elite at? We know him to be a great cutter to the rim and somebody who could sky above the rim for really efficient baskets at the bucket. And last night, I mean, the guy was 3 for 6, basically right there at the basket. I mean, that's something that we can't have from Jonathan Kuminga moving forward. He has to be shooting far above 50% at the rim if he wants to be a successful member of this Warriors rotation. I mean, he just couldn't get out of his way early. He couldn't get out of his way early last night. A part of that starting group comes down the floor. I think it was within 2 of a 4 possession stretch for Golden State. And Jonathan Kuminga has the ball in his hands. He's taking up the floor, trying to push it down toward the basket, and just dribbles directly over a defender. Like, he's just playing totally out of control. And that's an issue that Steve Kerr had with Jonathan Kuminga. His decisiveness, his decision-making, and what he did with the ball in his hands. To Steve Kerr said that Jonathan Kuminga is not a small forward. He's more of a power forward. And that's where he actually ended up having more success running out of the dunker spot last night, cutting to the rim. But even early on when he made those cuts to the rim, he was fumbling the ball down low. It was like a high school game for Jonathan Kuminga. Looked super sloppy. Need to see better moving forward out of Kuminga. And honestly, it wasn't just on the offensive end that I was concerned with. His on-ball defense concerned me last night. That's been something that we've been championing Jonathan Kuminga for, to be one of the better wing defenders, to be even the best wing defender on this Warriors team as Andrew Wiggins gets older. I mean, I saw Denny Avdija blow by him multiple times last night. I saw when he got switched on to even a smaller guard, which I'm not saying that Jonathan Kuminga should be locked down, glued onto these small, quick guards, but when he got switched on to Anthony Simons, when he got switched on to Scoot Henderson, he was struggling with those guys. And then even when Jeremy Grant would back him down in the post, it was just a bigger body going up against Jonathan Kuminga. Jeremy Grant standing at 6'9", obviously a little bit more weight on him than Kuminga as well. The on-ball defense was shaky in Kuminga's department as well. But he seemed to be trying, this is the issue with Jonathan Kuminga. He seemed to be trying too hard to take over the game. Let it come to you. In the preseason, I didn't see this too much. He didn't try to dominate with the ball in his hands too much. He let these catch and shoot opportunities go to him. He kind of he tried to turn his defense into offense, and he tried a little bit too hard with that against Portland. I mean, trying to push the ball down the floor. Get the ball to a player who we know can initiate offense. Get the ball to a player who we know is comfortable with it, can make a sound decision, and get you maybe an easy bucket at the rim. Give and go to somebody. This is basic fundamentals that Jonathan Kuminga just hasn't really flashed early on in his NBA career, and that's the reason that Golden State didn't give him a contract extension before the start of this season. Now, with the way that Jonathan Kuminga is playing last night, I'd be a little bit concerned if I were him. He says that he's not too concerned with the contract situation. He says, I'm not really concerned about it. I'm just concerned about coming out here and performing every other day. I ain't really thinking about that. The time came and nothing happened, so not really concerned about it much anymore. But honestly, guys, I'm not so sure that I buy what Kuminga is selling here. I can't believe that he's not thinking in the back of his head, look, I got to go make a play. I got to go, show something to this Warriors coaching staff, this Warriors front office, that I deserve the money that I was asking for. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga turned down $130 million last year. We're going to talk more about Kuminga and more about this Golden State Warriors rotation in just a moment. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform with over 10 million active members, and you can get started today by using our promo code CLNS. When you use that promo code CLNS, Prize Picks is going to give you $50 for free when you place your first $5 entry. Now, how do you place an entry? All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 player stat projections and just choose more or less on those projections. Watch the real money roll in. You can win up to 100 times your money, but with as little as 4 correct picks on Prize Picks. And they have so many incredible deals for you. If it's Taco Tuesday, they're offering discounted stat projections. If it's Flex Friday, they're giving you your money back if you miss out on your winnings. But what I got tonight for a little Thursday night, a little cross-sport action between basketball and football, got Matthew Stafford on Thursday Night Football to give me less than 242.5 passing yards. I think the Vikings are going to kind of take it to the Rams tonight. Give me Jason Tatum more than 5.5 assists after he dropped 10 dimes in the season opener against New York. And then Victor Wembanyama, he is going to burst onto the scene in his second year with a vengeance. Give me more than 42 points, rebounds, and assists. You can take my picks. You can fade my picks. Just make sure you go and do it at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use that promo code CLNS and get $50 for free when you use just $5 on an entry. You don't even have to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Jonathan Kuminga here in just a moment, but I want to get a pulse of what Dub Nation thinks. What is your confidence level in Jonathan Kuminga for this season? With Golden State being in the position that they are, they think that Jonathan Kuminga is going to be this secondary scoring option, maybe tertiary scoring option after Andrew Wiggins. Do you guys think he could be that reliably, consistently this season? Scale it for me down in the comments section, 1 to 10. I'm trying to hear what Dub Nation has to say. In my opinion, I'm concerned about Jonathan Kuminga. I'm concerned about what he said he's not concerned about is this contract extension and the fact that he's going to be trying to overcompensate, trying to make himself the money that he thinks he deserves next offseason. And that could disrupt things within the flow of this Warriors offense for a Warriors team that looked flawless last night, basically after a shaky start, which, let's be honest, Jonathan Kuminga was a part of that shaky start. He was actually the only starter for Golden State that was a negative in the plus-minus category. Coincidence? I think not. Every single Warrior was a net positive on the floor last night. Jonathan Kuminga, at least for the beginning, was certainly a net negative. Did come into more of his own once he started getting more of those cutting dunks to the basket, but the way he started the basketball game, I was disgusted, I'm not going to lie. And that's why I think that he could disrupt the Warriors' flow here if he's trying to do too much, if he's trying to be the hero with the ball in his hands, looking for that $200 million payday. Like, that's something that the Warriors can't have. They can't have somebody disrupting a flow of an offense, especially when Steve Kerr is playing 12 players in the rotation. That's what we're going to segue to next. The fact that Steve Kerr is doing the impossible here with a rotation for Golden State. We talked about it all offseason with them bringing in the free agents that they did, with them only letting go of Chris Paul and Klay Thompson, and having these new young players emerge and then signing a guy like Moses Moody to a contract extension. You're going to have to play him. It's going to be a tall task for Steve Kerr and this coaching staff. But what he had to say really intrigued me and honestly encouraged me for this Warriors roster as a whole. He said, I couldn't justify anyone being left out of the rotation. They've all played so well. I love that. I love that it's such a difficult decision for Steve Kerr to make on this Warriors rotation, because playing 10 guys, playing 12 guys, 10 guys is hard enough, but playing 12 guys is even more difficult. I mean, not one player even amassed over 25 minutes last night. Steph Curry was your leading minutes getter, and it didn't even feel that way. He didn't even play after the midway point of the third quarter when this game was already in hand. Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, Trey Jackson-Davis, none of them even eclipsing that 25-minute mark either. Then you got Buddy Hield doing what he did. Masterful performance in just 14 and a half minutes. Gary Payton II, he was in there for defensive assignments. He was one of the first subs in the ball game. Brandon Pajemski, Kevon Looney, D'Anthony Melton all did their part and all played. Everybody basically played the same number of minutes last night. It was a true hockey game when you're thinking about how Steve Kerr was subbing these guys in and out. And you also had Kyle Anderson and Moses Moody. Moses Moody being the 12th sub of the game. Each of those guys got about 15 minutes last night. Moses Moody made sure to make an impact once he did get in. He poured in 15 points on solid, efficient shooting from the floor. But Moses Moody being the 12th sub is crazy, in my opinion, especially when he just signed that contract extension, is one of the higher paid players in this Warriors rotation right now. And I don't think it's going to be like that all the time. I don't think Moses Moody will always be the 12th man, or this, I guess if you do the math, 7th man subbed off of the bench for these Golden State rotations. The team that Golden State played last night in Portland was a bigger team. It was somebody that they had to throw that starting lineup that they did out there with the bigger lineup and try to defend those guys at a high level. So I'm not concerned about Moses Moody's rotation spot and his role as of right now. Until we start seeing a little bit more consistency of him not playing, that's when I'll start raising some eyebrows. But for now, I think it's okay, and Steph Curry is kind of reassuring us all of that. He said, we'll find out if the 12-man rotation is sustainable. It's the identity of the team right now. We can rely on our depth, ability to be versatile, depending on what the game calls for. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of narrowing down the rotation at some point, depending on how things materialize. But that's not for us to worry about right now. And that's what I do love about this new Warriors roster, is that you can attack teams in so many different ways. If there's a bigger team like a Portland, like you played last night, you can throw that starting five that you did out there. If it's a smaller team, somebody likes to run five out, more like the Boston Celtics. I can't think of many teams right now, but just thinking about the Boston Celtics, you can run a smaller five out there. Here were the starters that you had against Portland, and you see that you have, besides Steph Curry, you have Andrew Wiggins there at 6'7". You have Jonathan Kuminga there at 6'7". Draymond Green is 6'7", and Trey Jackson-Davis on 6'7", or 6'9", excuse me. For a team in Portland that had a lot of switchability, it was good that Golden State could match up those guys 2 through 5 and have Trey Jackson-Davis and Draymond Green switching, as well as Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins. I thought it was a solid lineup, but they did have their problems with the spacing, and that all kind of comes back to the fact that Jonathan Kuminga really disrupted things from the outside. But I want to hear what you guys have to say, though. Can Golden State keep sustaining a rotation like this? Can they keep playing 12 guys a game? I want to hear what you have to say. Type Y for yes, type N for no, on whether or not you think Steve Kerr can keep pulling off this impossible act of a rotation or not. My question is, after you guys answer that, I would say yes for now, but like Steph kind of alluded to, how long until someone's upset about their minutes? How long until somebody is upset about the role that they have on this Golden State Warriors team? Because I don't think it's going to be too long. I think we're going to see, 15 games down the line, guys are going to start getting a feel for what Steve Kerr wants to throw out there. And then, a guy like Gary Payton or a guy like D'Anthony Melton or a guy like Moses Moody is going to be fleshed out of that lineup, because there's just so many guards, so many guys who could only so many guys who could play at the 1 and the 2 on this Warriors team. And there's too many guys on the roster that fit that mold and are deserving of play. It's just unfortunate that a couple of them are going to be scratched out of the lineup kind of once the season gets into full swing. But Steph said coach has done a pretty good job about explaining the situation that we're all in. You have to have a commitment. No agenda, no egos. Well, healthy egos. When you're out there, you know you're supposed to be out there. But if it's not your night, you can't bring the team down with your energy. Haven't seen any red flags of that, which is great. I mean, Steph, it's been one game. You haven't seen any red flags of that yet. I'm still worried in the back of my head that that guy might end up being Jonathan Kuminga, and it's going to be really unfortunate because that's somebody that Golden State is already wanting to play. That's somebody that they're wanting to build around in the future. He might be that guy who's not really fitting within this Golden State Warriors roster, and it might end up being the odd man out sometimes, and might not get the minutes that he thinks he deserves. That could lead to more unrest like he had with Steve Kerr last season. But all in all, with how this rotation is going to work out, it is a two-way street for Golden State. Like, with what Steph was saying, how the players have to come to terms with what their roles are, and have to come to terms with what is going to be expected of this rotation on a consistent basis. The coaching staff also has to figure out what that rotation is going to be on a consistent basis, and that's going to come with playing 12 guys a night early on this season. It's going to have to come with playing guys that you would normally see or lineups that you wouldn't normally see, so we can see who kind of emerges and who has the talent on this Warriors team. I'm excited for the future. I think this team is started off fantastically, and going into this matchup with the Jazz, I think they can stack up another win, move to 2-0 heading into the home opener. And we'll be here for that home opener, I hope. So I'll let you guys know if we're going to go live for it on my Twitter. Give me a follow over there, at SmittyXCS. Whenever there's Warriors news, we're coming with a video, but I got to report the news there first so you guys get that instant reaction to whatever goes down with your Golden State Warriors. And like I said earlier, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We went live last night here at Warriors Today. It was such a blast. We had a great time. You guys were awesome in the chat, and I can't wait to go live for more games this season. So if you want the best content on YouTube surrounding your Golden State Warriors, hit that sub button for me, youtube.com/WarriorsTV.